Hey everybody, and welcome back to Super Comic Fun Times Daily Vlog. Well, there's big excitement today as Thanos, Avengers, the Infinity War starring Thanos comes out. Now, like I said the other day, I won't be seeing it till Sunday. I'm very excited for this movie. So when I was at my LCS and they didn't have the things I wanted, I'd heard about these True Believers collections, so I decided to get those. And I read the two I bought dealing with Thanos today. And I have to tell you, that was a little hard because I really wanted to read The Devil Dinosaur. And I started reading this one a little bit. And so far, it's a lot of fun. I wasn't sure what to expect because of what the books, the Marvel books and the DC, what is it called? Punch Out? I can't remember the name of that book. It was a good book, but what it said about Jack Kirby when he returned to Marvel. He was kind of like in a foul mood because he really didn't get very much respect. So anyways, these books don't have anything to do with Jack Kirby. The first one here is from Iron Man 55, and that was from February 1973. And so, yeah, this is the cover for the reprint edition that's out in your local comic book store now. Only $1, pretty good deal for $1. The artwork is top notch. Jim Starlin wrote the story, and it says, okay, let me just read you the credits properly because it's a little complicated. Plot, pencils, and character conceptions by Jim Starlin, aided by Mike Friedrich, the scripter. And the inker was Mike Esposito, and John Costanza was the letterer, and Roy Thomas was the editor at this time. At this time they had like early 70s up until Jim Shooter took over. They had like a lot of turnover with their editor-in-chiefs. So I don't know if Roy Thomas was the editor-in-chief at the time. It doesn't really say. The other thing about these books is I wish they would put the year that the book came out. Now, I didn't see that. Like at the back, they have the original cover, Invincible Iron Man, number 55. And let's see, getting a lot of glare, but okay, that's probably like the best I'm going to get it. But there's nowhere that I found that actually tells me the year it came out, and I had to go and look that up. I'm looking again. I read all of this little, I don't know if that's going to come through. Let's see. Yeah, you can see all the small print. Well, yeah. The camera just is going to keep trying to focus on it and kind of screw it up. But anyways, they've got the current year in there, and they said it was made between March 19th and or March 9th and March 19th of this year, this particular book. But they don't give the day the original book was published, which I would like. I mean, I like to know these things. At any rate, so it starts when we have Drax the Destroyer. And, even though this is called Thanos the First, I'm not sure if this is the first time we're seeing him or if he's been in Captain Marvel. I got some books. Do you like my language? I have some books on some virtual books, some digital books that deal with the Captain Marvel, but I haven't read them yet. And I have the Kree Skrull War, which Captain Marvel is already in, and I think that ran from 69 to 70. That was about a year run, and that was a fun book. I really enjoyed that one. So even though this is Thanos the First, I'm not sure if this is his first appearance or not. But anyways, we got going on is Drax the Destroyer, who isn't like the Drax we know. He's trying to contact Tony Stark telepathically. Tony Stark is being beat up by these two things called the Blood Brothers, and he gets captured, and Thanos captures Drax, and we got this whole dialogue here. Thanos, how did you return? I've been watching you all along, simple-minded dolt. Did you not suspect I could tell you have been telepathing? I didn't know telepathing was a word. I kind of like that. Your every move is monitored, Destroyer. I could easily have stopped you, but I chose not to, for you are like a space mote crashing into a barren asteroid, totally insignificant. I'll break free of your evil domination, Thanos, and then I'll fulfill my soul life mission and annihilate you, Thanos, utterly. And so, you know, they have that exchange, but Thanos is kind of trapped for now. And then we kind of do a flashback. This book is a little bit confusing in how it's told. Tony is at a board meeting and he's like, gentlemen, this is the first of a set of sales and stock reports compiled since Stark Industries shifted priorities from weaponry to ecological research. And I'm pleased to announce, and then what's his name, Drax's psychic message starts to come through, but it's like too overpowering, and he just realizes, oh, I gotta go. So I really want to know how the company is doing, going from weapons of war to ecology. I mean, this whole thing seems a scam. So then he goes, and we got this whole scene with him getting dressed. And then I guess when he gets dressed, I really don't know. I didn't follow Iron Man back then. You know, it's unbelievable today, but Iron Man is a pretty boring character back here, you know, as I think Robert Downey Jr. really makes that character live and breathe. And here he's sort of cardboardy. He's, you know, he's kind of like, he's a guy with a suit. And I do remember some things, like there was a cartoon show in the late 60s that was in reruns when I was growing up, Marvel superheroes, and they basically just took scenes from the comic books and kind of did as minimal animation as possible. And they did have like some character development between Pepper Potts and Tony, but it was still like he was always just like, I don't know, he was bland. I never liked him. And this story isn't all that different. So anyways, he's putting on the suit, and it says here that and there he stood, mistaken in the belief he could ward off my mental probes. Oh yeah, because what's happening is Drax is kind of telling the story, and yeah, so at the same time you've got these guys and coming up, and then it turns out that these are the Blood Brothers breaking in. We don't get much of an explanation for them, and then Drax contacts him again after he's in his armor. He thinks Tony thinks that the mesh steel will, you know, like it'd be like a Faraday cage and keep the psychic messages out, but it doesn't. But this time he's able to communicate with Drax and find out what's going on. And we find out that Tony Stark, at least at this point, doesn't know who Thanos is. And we got, you know, this, the artwork just really pops off the page in this. You know, you've got the old time Marvel. I think possibly like when you would see this kind of space stuff on the flat newsprint, it didn't really look quite as good. It looks really good here. This is a very good thing. So then we get the origin of Thanos, and, you know, Titan is the largest moon of Saturn, and beneath the surface, everybody thinks it's a dead moon, but beneath the surface there's this giant computer named Isaac, and he kind of like, he's like, how is he described, as a teacher and part controller. And yeah, Thanos, you know, everything is kind of peaceful here. It's kind of like New Genesis in that everything is pretty cool. And they say like Thanos is a ripoff of Darkseid. I don't really see that. I mean, I can see how that comparison can be made, but to me, Darkseid and Thanos have, well, I guess they have similar, like they're both, well, Darkseid isn't really obsessed with death. Thanos is almost romantic, and I don't know if that's because his brother's name is Eros, you know, the god of love. So let me just go over this a little bit. He goes, Isaac, a gargantuan computer, both a teacher and a servant to what lay below, a completely self-sufficient paradise. So this sounds a lot like New Genesis, home of the Titans, the people of ever-advancing science, art, and beauty, and ruled by wise mentor. So, you know, if you remember back to the TV show Captain Marvel, or Shazam TV show from the 70s, Billy's companion was named Mentor. And of course, Mentor is a character from, excuse me, from Homer's Odyssey. And Mentor actually mentors Telemachus, Odysseus's son. And I can't remember if Mentor was actually a god or not at this point. because Athena, I can't remember if Mentor might have been Athena in disguise, but it's been a little while since I read the Odyssey, and I don't quite remember it. So, anyways, and Mentor ruled by wise Mentor and his sons, Eros and Thanos. Then came the great day. Thanos tried to usurp the power, creating weapons on this world that had none. And then he's exiled, and then he makes war against Titan, and so I almost said hi, Father. Mentor goes to his father, who is Kronos, and so he goes, Father of fathers, I come to you at the direst needs. Speak no more, Mentor. I have witnessed Titan's great trial, and I grieve. But grief is a hollow substance if not backed by new resolve. But I can aid Titan but once. Yet aid it I shall. So what he does is he creates Drax. Now in this issue we don't get Drax backstory, so except for this, he's like created Drax the Destroyer. Mine was a mission of destruction. Yeah, let's see, wait, birth not of mother nor father. So in this case, he's like a golem. It says, bounding with pulsating life. But later on, we find out something else. That's why I'm kind of like trying not to get too far ahead. And so Drax is created with the sole mission to kill Thanos. And he constantly fails at it. So, this I like here is we got Mentor. And this is, like I said, 1973, but I think this looks a lot like Lauren Green. And in a few years, like 5 years, like around 78, I think, Lauren Green will star in Battlestar Galactica as Adam Adama or Adama something or other. I forget his full name. So I thought that was interesting that in the comic books they had somebody who looked like, I mean, at least to me, he looks like Lauren Green. And, for your young people out there, he was like the father in Bonanza. He was just like this guy. He did the Elpo commercials. He was kind of everywhere in the 70s. He did like the voiceover for, what was that show with the talking car? The Night Industries 2000, Knight Rider. So he did like the voiceover for work for that. He was very popular in the 70s. That was like near the end of his life too. And he lived into the, was it like around, I guess, mid 80s. I can't quite remember. I looked it up once. But so anyway, so what happens here is a Mentor knows what's going on with Drax, and everything is kind of a setup. Well, yeah, this is actually still the end of the story, I think. So that you got the Blood Brothers are bringing Iron Man into the fortress, and then he does something. He goes like, I've got to use the only weapon I've got. Surprise! And so like he tries to zap him, and it did throw him off for a moment. And then Drax is like calling to him, saying where he's at, and Tony tries to free Drax, but it just kind of backfires on him. And then this is a cool scene. So Tony is lying on the floor, and after like trying to release Drax, and there's like a kind of like a mojo on it that the energy doubles back on him. And as he's trying to recover, Thanos shows up and he just stomps on his foot. I thought that was really cool. I mean, just look at that. This is just a really, really cool scene. You know who's in charge. And then this is where like Mentor realizes that this is their one chance, and they send this beam. And what does it say about this beam? An azure flame which streaks across the void at speeds undreamt of by Earth-born physicists. And then it comes through his chest plate, and so like that frees Drax, and then the fight ensues, and excuse me, I have a very drippy nose. Very, very, very sorry about that. And we got some really cool looking art. So like what they find out is this Thanos is a robot, or more than likely like a simulacrum. That's what I would guess, is like Thanos is controlling this simulacrum from a distant base or something like that. Because robots are, would a robot be programmed with that cruelty? I don't think so. I don't like to think so. I like to think that Thanos is actively controlling the robot when he stomps on Tony's arm. So yeah. So then we have this nice scene, and it looks like they're surfing. This kind of reminds me of whatchamacallit, Escape from LA, the scene where Snake and Peter Fonda's character are surfing through the city. I like that movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. So anyways, they defeat Thanos and like they go, okay, I know who this Thanos guy is now. Thank you, Drax. And then just in time for Rasputin. That's the end of this issue. I don't know what happens next, but this one has a mini story, like an 8-page mini story. And this is where we find out that Drax was once a guy. And so like Thanos is at this temple and he's going to destroy this flower, which this flower, once it's destroyed, he's supposed to get godhood, or it's something on his way to godhood. Not exactly sure what. And this woman and her daughter are coming up for this religious ceremony, which everybody is dead, but they don't get the word. So like the woman attacks Thanos, which is a really bad idea, and he kicks him off. He kicks him off the altar thing, and Drax just has to go and help, because this is where we find out that he's actually like kind of the reincarnation. Images of his wife and child. Okay, as mother and daughter plunge to their doom, images of another mother and daughter flit through the destroyer's mind. No! Images of his wife and child killed by Thanos many years past during the destroyer's previous lifetime as Art Sampson. Suddenly he knows that even if Thanos escapes, even if he must momentarily abandon his purpose for the first time, it must not happen again. And so, yeah, so Drax goes down and he saves the woman. And the woman is like really pissed off at him because Thanos kills the flower, which is like the final desecration. He wins and then he leaves. And of course, the whole point of this story, I think, it's very short. It's not as good as that 8-page story with Martian Manhunter back in the '89 issue of the JLA annual. That one is just such a good story. That should be a classic in your memory. But this one is like, the woman is like, you should have killed him. He crushed the flower, the last sacred bloom. You should have let us, die. And Drax goes, but I could not. For then would I not have been as evil as Thanos. The hunt goes on. The end. So, you know, that whole story, the whole point of that is just to flesh out the golem. You know, he's not just a golem made by Kronos now, but he had a past life and his wife and daughter were killed. And I don't know if this is flushed out anyplace else. This is like really early. I wasn't reading comic books in 1973. I've read some. You know, I've caught up with some since, but the next one we have is from July 1st. This was, July 1st, 1974. So this is a little more than a year later. And this is the first time I think the Avengers fight. So we start here on Fight Thanos. We start here, and this story is called The Power of Babel. And of course, you know, that just makes you think of Tower of Babel. And we're wrapping up the previous episode, which I don't know what happened. There's, I guess there's this group of villains called the Zodiac, and Libra here is being arrested. And here's Mantis. And back in these days, she wasn't an alien. As far as I know, maybe they retconned that she was an alien. But in these days, she's from Vietnam. And so, you know, she talks very she talks very much like Mantis in the Last Guardians movie. It's like no more than she knows who she might be. It's like, farewell Libra, this one cannot recall you. This one cannot call you father, for she knows not who that may be, no more than she knows who she might be. So she talks like in this, is that second person? That's not really third person. So yeah, she talks in this weird way that she kind of talks in the movie from what I recall. The need to see Thor again. And so, yeah, they're going away, and then she has to go. I guess she has another love interest called the Swordsman, and he's getting out of the hospital. And just as this is happening, Captain America's pulling up. And this is what I found this interesting is like, you know, Iron Man says, hey, look who's back. We were just watching you on TV earlier when you cleared up that secret empire and vindicated yourself. Well done, Avengers. So, you know, there was just an event in Marvel called Secret Empire that a lot of people didn't like, and some people did like it. But at any rate, apparently there was a secret empire way back in the 70s. So, you know, it's just interesting history. I don't know anything about it at this point, but it was in Captain America and Falcon 175 on sale now. And then like Captain America doesn't really want to talk about it. Something has shaken him, and so that makes me think that maybe he did find out he was Hydra. I don't know. So I should have probably picked up that book. Iron Man, T'Challa. I need to get my mind off what happened, and so like they recount some past thing. I guess they went to Vietnam to find out who Mantis is, and the thing they thought she was like a crook or something, but they find out she wasn't. And then just then, somebody comes into the mansion with Rick's ID card, and she warns them, Captain America, there's a trap set for Rick. You must save him. Trap set by whom? And who are you? I'm Luann and Thanos. Thanos. Thanos, Captain America said. Who or what is that? Answer me. So, just like a year and a few months before, Iron Man should know who he is, but apparently they don't share notes because Captain America doesn't have any idea who Thanos is. Then you have this weird thing because apparently this is a tie over with Captain Marvel, and we just get this whole big summary as soon as the girl collapses, and then I guess Thanos or somebody, his goons come in, and we have all of this stuff going on, and all of this is explained in Captain Marvel. What was it? I'm not seeing the little box here that tells me, but this all happened right here. It says that comes later. As all regular readers of Captain Marvel are doubtlessly already aware, as shown in detail within those pulsating pages, the answer arrives with a battle-worn Marvel. So yeah, Marvel shows up, and then like guess a whole bunch of Drax is there. And this part was really confusing to read. I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't really care. And then like they kind of fast forward, and they have this fleet that they make, and they've got this really nice 2-page spread. Just make sure that looks good, not too much glare. So yeah, so then we have this whole war going on in space, and this was pretty entertaining. I didn't find it as entertaining as the Kree-Skrull War, but it was a pretty nice space battle. So I'll just flip through the pages for you a little bit. And you just have like Thor is like not needing a spaceship, so he's kind of like jumping on things and breaking things up, and then you have Thanos. Let's make sure I didn't go past it. Is the space bad guy is real? Oh yeah, right here. Thanos is outside the window, and the guy goes, "Oh my God, he did become a god," and he's like saying, "I thought you said that like this Earth would be an easy place to conquer. We have 3 ships, and they're kind of taking us out." And Thanos says, "Did I not also promise that each of your ships has power enough to ravage a world? You panic needlessly, scum. Strive on." And then he kind of disappears. And then just then Thor comes in and wrecks that ship. And then, well, that happens, more ships are destroyed. And then there's this sort of black patch in space that nobody can penetrate. And then we have a little bit of let's go back to the panel here. So we have a little bit of soap opera stuff. So the swordsman is here. This is really the first time he's in the book, even though he was mentioned earlier as getting out of the hospital, but time has passed. And so like he's getting jealous of Vision because swordsman, snap to. You've been in your own world ever since you returned from the hospital, but I need you now. You do, huh? You need a lot of things, like both your woman and mine, android. You tell me you admire Mantis's mind, but we both know what you really mean, don't we? So he's jealous because I guess he's been complimenting Mantis, and then that freaks Wanda out. Like, just look at her. I like how they put the arrow to her too. It's like Mantis is like saying, well, at first he goes, "I won't even dignify that with a reply, Avenger." And then Mantis goes, "What is he saying, Vision? Have you praised this one also to him? Have you praised this one to him also?" He goes, "Enough. We have no time to divide our concentration. We have a mission. We've got to win the war." So the narrator says, a very logical, level-headed viewpoint vision, but, well, one picture is worth several thousand words. And you see, like, Wanda is, like, you know, kind of triggered by the fact that her man might be interested in what's her name. So then, like, and instead of doing that, they just decide to go out and attack it. But she's kind of like, the narrator makes a point that, you know, she says, I might not have training, but I have this chaos magic thing, and no force field can stand up against it. So she punches a hole through the blackness, and there's this, and you know, and the narrator goes, you know, if Vision were a human, he would be able to pick up the irony or something like that in her voice. And so you got this really cool starship in there, and so Vision goes in and you know, uses his phasing power, and then yeah, Swordsman and Vision are still kind of squabbling, even though there's really no reason for it. Excuse me. Then, you know, they realize that all of these creatures, they're like a diverse set of aliens, but they seem to be able to speak English, and all of the panels are labeled with English. And so what it turns out is there's a universal translator. And so what they end up doing is they end the war by destroying, because this thing is kind of hidden. This is like Thanos' ace in the hole. And so it's like what's allowing all of his forces to work together. They can understand each other and whatnot because of that. So they destroy that ship, and then they can't talk. It's like, you know, the words become gibberish. Now, I don't know if they had the convention yet where they would, you know, here they don't really care to travel, but that's where the title comes from. It's like Power of Babel, Tower of Babel. So like Thanos had unified everybody with language. And then this is kind of cool. Here he is, kind of like this mad Titan space guy. And he is. So, you know, the Avengers are talking. It's like, we won, but like, you know, we didn't find Thanos, and like he's hiding behind a wall listening to them. And you know, they're just saying like, I don't think we're done with Thanos yet because he hasn't been, you know, defeated. And he goes, whether the Avengers won or lost, their mere involvement with my space pawns has doomed the planet Earth. So I don't know. I like the artwork there. I just think it's like he's hiding behind a brick wall. I hope that's in the movie. Oh my God. But this story, it was a little confusing. I think it would read better as part of a collected edition. And who knows? I bought so many comics in the last few weeks. I might have it someplace in a collected edition. But overall, it was pretty good. You know, maybe a B. So I enjoyed both of them. But I did, like I said, I started reading Devil Dinosaur, and that one is really intriguing. So I'll finish reading it tomorrow, and I'll talk about that in my vlog. It's just so much fun. I want to talk about it right now, but I can't. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. If you've seen Infinity War yet, don't spoil it for me. Talk to you later. Bye.